So the Mishnah, Be'ez Hashem, will learn a little bit, try to get a little bit deeper into the Mah Nishtanah. If you remember, I think last year we already started a little bit Hagadah. We learned a few pieces of Hagadah. We learned Helach Ma'anya and Ma'aseh B'Lezer. So we'll learn a little bit Mah Nishtanah. So the Mishnah, it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says that you mozgal koy sheni, so you pour the second cup. The kana ben shoyel aviv, and now the child asks his father, and what's this question? So there's 4 questions. Mah Nishtanah alazem kol haleilos. Shbechol haleilos, all the nights, other nights on oichel chametz matzah. So you ate chametz matzah. Alayla zekul matzah. Tonight we only eat matzah. Shebechol is on oichel shar yirakis. Alayla zamar. All other nights we eat all different types of bitter herbs. Tonight's only mar. Shebechol is on oichel basar tzli shalak mufusha. Alayla kul tzali. This is the time of the Beis Hamikdash when they brought in Karban Pesach. They said also tzli, and we don't bring tzli. You only eat roasted food. And the 4th question, Shebechol aleilas ein onu chayiv litbal afilu pam achas. In those days, people generally did dip their food into different types of things, so there's no chiyuv to dip it twice, not once, but tonight we have to dip it twice. Now, that's not, so there's 4 questions in the Mishnah. We don't have tzli and shaluk, because that's something we don't have Karban Pesach. So we have another question that's asked, that was not asked in Zman HaMishnah, in the time of the Mishnah, which is aseba. The reason why this question was not asked in the times of the Mishnah, because in those days they sat mesubim. They always sat mesubim. They always sat leaning. Today we sit. It's a special thing to sit mesubim. So therefore we eat mesubim tonight. Kulon mesubim. At least it's a chiyuv to eat mesubim. There's a chiyuv to eat leaning down. So the shaila is. So first of all, you see from the Mishnah that when the Mishnah takes out an argirsa, when we take out sli, you put a mesubim. So somehow you need 4. You need 4. So in other words, in the Mishnah there's 4. There's sli. So you don't have sli, you have mesubim. But you still need 4. And the Zman HaMishnah, when they only had the sli, they didn't have mesubim. But there was something about the idea of keeping it 4. What's 4? Now obviously you see that 4 is a major theme in the entire Hagadah. And we'll see they're all interconnected. There's the Alabonim and the Alakoisis, whatever. There's going to be a lot of things of 4. So we see that the Mishnah wants the Mesader HaMishnah or the Mesader HaGadah, which we're not sure who exactly this is, who wrote the Hagadah. Definitely it's a very old Toisus already quotes the Bal Hagadah, because there's certain things that we found in Hagadah that's not found in Chazal, like the Shem Suv B'nei Brak, that story, exactly that version of the story, where the 5 Chacham were sitting in Bnei Brak. That story is not found in Chazal. It's not found. We don't have any makeh for the story besides the Hagadah itself. That's the story. There's a similar story in Tosefta at the end of Pesach, but this exact story, Tosis quotes from the Hagadah. So we see that there's the Bal Hagadah is very interested. There should be 4. So we have to understand why 4, and also vas epis, why particularly in the order that we have it. So the way we have it, we is really the Rif and the Rambam. Look at the Mamak over here. The Rambam. Where's the Rambam? Oh, it's in the middle of the middle. So the Rambam, this is the gears of the Rambam. So the Rambam writes that you write Moizim Kois Hasheni V'Kana Ben Shoyel. So you pour the second cup, and the child asked a question, and the question is, he said, the question that he has is Shebechol Leil is Einon Matbilim Afila Pam Achas Halaz Shtei Pam. So Fis Matbilim. It's Perik Ches Mishnah Halacha Beis. So first you ask the question of Matbilim, then the question of Chametz and Matzah, then the question of Tzli and Shalak, which we don't do anymore, and then Yerakis, and then Ben Yeshua Mesubim, and Bizman Hazeh. There's four. There's five with Tzli, but he says Bizman Hazeh Eino Moralized Akul Tzli, and we only have to pull it out. You pull out the extra one, so you'll have five. Okay. So the Rambam is just writing the total girsa of all of them would be five, but today we only have four. So the girsa that we have, it starts with dipping in, then it goes to matzah, morer, and aseva. So that's the girsa of the Rambam, the girsa of the Rif, and that's the way most people say the Mah Nishtanah, the four questions. Okay. Now, so that's what I'm saying. There's different girsas. In the Rambam's girsa, it's first matbilim, then chametz amatzah, then morer, and then aseba. That's also the girsa Sarif. That's also the girsa of the Alter Rebbe. Of the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch. And the Alter Rebbe's Hagadah is the same thing also. Like the different girsas. This is the girsa of the Rif and the Rambam. So we'll understand a little this. So first of all, why four questions, dafke four, and why in this particular order that we're going to go according to the Rambam, this version. The other question is, a very simple question is, that we say in Yiddish, or the way it's translated is the vier kashas. These are four questions. But they're actually not four questions. They're statements, exactly. There's one question. Mah Nishtanah alaylas and mikol alaylas. What's the difference in this night and all nights? And then you say four different things that are different. Tonight we eat twice, you dip in. Tonight you eat only matzah. Tonight you only eat more. Tonight you only seba seba. But it's not four questions. It's four statements. So what's the taka? So what is the question? What is taka the question? So the language of Mah Nishtanah. If you look in the Aruch HaShulchan, this has just a Hagadah of what the language of Mah Nishtanah, what is this night different? And he says, Tofayin Gimel Chaf Aleph, and he talks about the Seder of the Hagadah. So he says, towards the second column at the end, today, we don't ask, the child doesn't ask, why did you just pour a second cup? And we didn't yet start the meal. But we asked the question of Mah Nishtanah. That Mah Nishtanah is like wonder, pella. How wonderful. Yaakov. Aderech is spilus. It's a derech of spilus. Mah Nishtanah is a language of wonderment. So the question of wonderment. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan is just talking about pshat. What does the word ma mean? So not what. What could mean what? What could mean what? What could mean like what? It's a different type of what. What? Yeah, it's all. It's like it's spineless. Like what's going on here? But not just a simple shayla. What's the difference tonight? But ma is magol masech Hashem. There's like a question of wonderment. We'll see why it's important, but I'll be more pnimius. But this is the idea of ma. If you look at the first Mar Mokim, we're going to talk about that exactly. Exactly. You'll see that the whole Seder is connected to ma. Ma is going to be Mah Nishtanah and Chacham Ma Oimer, and then Matzah Zushon Eichel Al Shumah, and Pesach Zushon Eichel Al Shumah, and Moreh Zushon Eichel Al Shumah. There's Memhe, Ma. It's a very important idea of the Seder night. Is Ma, is this wonderment? We'll see what this is, but this is the Nikud. This is the point. If you look at the first Mar Mokim, it's from the Abarbanel. The Abarbanel writes that the question, the first two Ma'ar Mekaymis is from the Barbanel. It's a sefer that the Barbanel wrote on the Hagadah called Zevach Pesach. It's one of the earliest Perushim we have on the Hagadah itself. The Barbanel was sort of the end of the Rishonim and the first of the Achronim. So the Barbanel lived through the expulsion of Spain, so you can, in that era. So you can say it's from the last of the Rishonim or from the early Achronim. So the Barbanel writes that the question is in the first two pages. In Ashayla Zoisu, Shashoyel Rosh Belayla Zeno Oisim in Yonim Moir Al Yisenu Bnei Chorim, Bnei Malachim V'Yetz Aretz V'Sorim Zov Lahem V'Nas Yon Macher Behepach Moir Al Yisenu Avodim V'Chronim B'Zuyim. The Barbanel says that what's the question of Mah Nishtanah? The question of Mah Nishtanah is, why is it a night of Afachim? Not, he says, in the Gemara, where it says V'Kana Ben Shoyel, is because the child is going to ask, why are you doing something different tonight than every other night? So, there's certain things that we do to confuse the Tanoikis, the children, so the children should ask a question. Like, why do we pull away the shulchan? Or why do we... So you're doing certain things, or why do you toivel something in salt water? So you're doing certain things, so the Tanoikis shall ask this question. That's not the question of Mah Nishtanah. So he says there are two separate questions. One is the Tanoikis that asks the question of what's going on, what are you doing this? And the teretz for that question is Avodah Min Paralel Mitzrayim. That's going to be part of the... So you're doing these things to tell us that Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the oimik of the Shaila Mah Nishtanah is a different question. The oimik of the Shaila Mah Nishtanah is, why is this night different than all other nights? What's the Shaila? What's the question? The question is, what are you celebrating? What exactly are you doing tonight? Are you celebrating Geula, freedom? Then celebrate freedom. If you're celebrating freedom, eat matzah or eat divrei cheres, something that represents cheres. Drink cups of wine, recline, and have a feast. If you're celebrating avdus, so eat morer and eat bitter things, and don't celebrate. Why is this hafachim? Why is the night of hafachim? Why is it opposites? That's the question. So he gives an example, and he says it goes back and forth. What does that mean? He says that when you dip something in salt water or you dip something in charaisis, what you're actually doing is derech cheres. That's an act of derech cheres. Why? First of all, he knew this from Adane Asarim. This is actually the Abarbanel was from the Sarah Hamalucha by the king in Spain and in Portugal. He says that this is the way people eat in the ancient world to show that you're rich, and so you dip your food. It shows that you have different type of tibulim, like people today have dips on the Leil Shabbos or something. That shows that it's a derech cheres. So you're doing something derech cheres. So you start off with derech cheres, and with tzad echad you're a hepech. Shekol is on chametz and matzah. Shekol on kfir tzayim bil chiyuv. Alezalek kulei matzah b'chiyuv. And v'kibaloi safik moir ala avdus. And it's certainly that matzah is moir ala avdus. That matzah shows in slavery. Why? This is the chiddush of the Abarbanel. I think we mentioned this last year by Halach Manya, that the Abarbanel brings down b'shem the Even Ezra. That when it says Halach Manya Cholav Son of the Mitzrayim, this is the matzah that we ate. Halach Manya Cholav Son of the Mitzrayim. This is the matzah we ate in Mitzrayim. So everyone asked the Shaila, who said we ate matzah in Mitzrayim. Halach Manya Cholav Son of the Mitzrayim. We didn't eat matzah in Mitzrayim. Where did we eat that matzah? That we went when we left Mitzrayim. When we left Mitzrayim, we ate matzah. So what does it mean? So the Even Ezra brings down, the Abarbanel brings it down before. And I wrote before that the Even Ezra says that he was captive. His ship was captured, and he was sold into slavery in India. And in India, they put him in a prison, and they fed him matzah. They fed him flatbread. And he asked the jailers, why are you giving this flatbread? He says, because it sits in the stomach for a longer period of time. It doesn't digest well. So we can give you much less. We can give you one matzah a day, and you can be satisfied for the whole 24 hours. If you give you something else, it's going to digest quicker. You're going to be hungry. So he said that's achol son dar mitzrayim. Even as I said, that's pshat. That the Michael avodim, the food of the slaves in Mitzrayim, was takeh matzah. This is what the Even Ezra says. This is what the Abarbanel also holds. That's another type of matzah. But I'm saying the matzah, the Heilach Ma'anim, the Chol of Zon, Mitzrayim, when you say we ate matzah Mitzrayim, means literally, Klal Yisrael ate matzah. By the way, the Maharal writes Shafalisis against in Gvuras Hashem. He says it's not shaykh to say such a Sorah, because it's not mentioned Chazal. So Dovish and Limsa Chazal. Chazal never mentioned such an idea that we ate matzah. Where does it come from? So Taka the evidence says that he knows from experience, but he says if this is Taka real, the Maharal writes, then Chazal would give us an indication to that.
Could be they gave matzah in India based on the story.
Von der Heilach Ma'anim Chol of Mitzrayim. Das kann sein? Das kann sein? You mean the person knew the Hagadah and he knew what it said? Can sein? This is a good argument. Yeah, can sein? Can sein? Akitza, this is the Maisa of matzah. The matzah is definitely Meichel Oni, right? That the lechem oini, it's poor man's bread. The chol of a son of Aaron side. It's paradox. So you start with cheres, then you go to avdus, then you go to slavery. The same thing also b'chol is on echem shayirakas tahavas amarokim v'pas. V'lai zeh kula mor. It's in morak k'mashu chai mebli pas v'loy mevushal. He says that morer you can have if you take bitter herbs and you mix it together with something else. It's chayin. It's geschmack. Actually, it tastes very good. But you give me raw mar, plain mar. That's avdus. That shows on poverty that you can't actually do anything with it. So he says you go back to poverty. And then b'cholei zon b'yishim yisuvim, huh? Yeah, the avada pieces of avada. Yeah. Shtiklach mar. No. Yeah, no. You also see a little lettuce, but the in Chabad you eat pieces, chunks of mar. No, that's for the young people. That's for children. You take a bite, and it's a bit schwer. So this is the way we do it. Yeah. So this is the idea of ben yoshim ben mesuvim. So it's mesuvim. So he says this in Kemalaiza Shnei Dvarim Moirim Al Avdus and Chayers. What's pshat? So what's going on? Why is it Avdus and Chayers? He says that's the question of Mah Nishtanah. The question of Mah Nishtanah is why is it hafachim? Why is it opposites? Why do you both do both those things in opposite ways? Yeah. So we said before that the shaila, according to Aruch HaShulchan, Ma is a shaila of wonderment. And if you look in the pasuk, there's a Rashi. This is actually the makar that a child has asked the question. Kan a ben shoyels from this pasuk. The child's going to ask you this question. Ma zois. So Rashi writes, what's ma zois? So ma zois, Zok Rashi, ze tinok tipish. This is a child that's a tipish. She'ena yodea lahamik sha'alose v'shol ma zois. That this is a shaila of a tipish. To ask what is a shaila of a tipish. He says, "V'makam achar moed es achukim mishpatim v'chumer azay shalos ben chacham." That's a shaila of ben chacham. You have the Rashi. The next one is a shaila of ben chacham. But to ask ma kishalcha bincha, and this says ma zois. What is this? This is a shaila. We have ma zois is a shaila's tam, right? That's a shaila of the tam. The tam. That's what. What's going on? I don't understand. Ma. But the shaila of ma is a tipish. In the Yerushalmi, we have chacham, echad rasha, echad tam, echad eshen elishal. That's our girsa. That's Bavli. In the girsa Yerushalmi, it's echad chacham, echad rasha, echad tipish. Echad shein elishal. There's a tipish and there's a tam. That's obviously a very, very different thing. But the tipish shaila, the question of the fool, is ma. What? But there's a more oimik to the shaila of ma because it also comes from a place of Maram Masach Hashem. Okay. In the shaila, the question is your moize koisheni, and the child asked the question. And he asked these questions. He has every night you don't dip in. Tonight we're going to dip in twice. How does the tinnik know this? How does a child know this? You haven't dipped. How does he know that this is what's going to happen? Now you dipped, or you did?
This is the first year he's talking. Last year he was watching.
Yeah, so he knows from last year. So he remembers from last year. And forget about the dipping. By the way, the Maharal learns. We didn't speak about this, but the Maharal learns that the question of the tinnik is by the second dipping, not by the first. The first dipping, he thinks, okay, that's not you dip. Okay, so what? But then the second dip, you do the exact same thing like you do in the first dipping. According to the Rambam, you have to do it bekazayis. You eat karpas. We don't do it, right? You eat your karpas kazayis. You dafkedare kazayis. But the Rambam holds you have to do it bekazayis, because the Rambam says, the Maharal learns the Rambam saying that the second dipping, which is the Mor Charoisis, is exactly replica of the first dipping. So just like the second dipping has to be a kazayis, Mor has to be a kazayis, the famous Rosh Hashanah has to be a kazayis, because it says achila nusach tefillah nusach is alachilas Mor, you have to eat a kazayis, right? Besides, it's a mitzvah to eat kazayis. So he says that the same thing also with karpas, you must eat a kazayis. So the Maharal says the question of the tinnik ass is by the second dipping. He sees that you did the first dipping. Okay, fine, that's something tonight you have to do. You have to do a kazayis in something. But then you do the exact same thing an hour later, or 2 hours later, 4 hours later, whatever how long it takes. Then he asks him the question. So the shaila is the question comes from later. So how does a child know? That's a simple shaila, yeah. How does a child know these questions? Now, even if you say they're statements, it's still a shaila. So shaila Mah Nishtanah allows me to call it is why it's neis hafachim, why it's opposites. That's the question. Then the question is the question is how does the child know all these 4 things? That's a klotz kasha, and the teretz is like this. In Zman HaGemara, the seder of Pesach was different than we have today. We do it differently than it was today. Than it was Bizman Mishnah. If you look in the Mishnah, you look in your Marker, you'll see. First you moizik koishishin. So you pour a first cup. This is what the Mishnah says. And the Machlekes B'Shama, if you mehal hayoyim or aliyayin. So according to Basil, you mevarch aliyayin, and then you varch aliyoyim. The next Marker, right after Rashi. Mazgal koishishin. Which means you make kiddush. Which means you make a bracha of varach alayayin, you make a bracha of beipragafen, and you make a varach alayayin, you make the alayim, you make kiddush. That's the first thing. Then he viu lefanim then you bring all the food in front of you, which means that you eat the tafshilim, you eat the matzah, chazeres, charesis, you eat all the foods that you're supposed to eat on that night, which means you do the meal. And then this is where we're missing the Maramag. The next page is Kufta Zayin on the Beis, when it should have been Kufta Zayin on an Aleph. And here's what the Mishnah says. You have to trust me. It says like this: Mazgal Koi Sheni. After the second Mishnah, which says that they brought in front of the person the chazeres, the matzah, and everything, then Mazgal Koi Sheni, you fill up a second cup. Vikana ben shoyel aviv. And now the child asks the question. So when is the child asking the shaila? After the meal. The reason why the child can ask the question is you don't have this Gemara, you don't have this Mishnah. Why? Because he saw everything already. But when you're filling up the second cup, the Seder is over. The Seder pshat is the food is over. And now you did Mazga Koi Sheni, Kana ben shoyel, then he did Magid, and then they Mazga Koi Servi, and then they did the Mazda Koi Shlishi, and they said Birchas Hamazon, yeah, and then they finished Halo. That was the Seder.
Why did the Seder change?
Why, I don't know, but it changed. How do we know it changed? First of all, from the Mishnah, it sounds like it changed, but you also know it changed from the second Gemara. There's a Gemara in the next page. The Gemara says like this. Towards the end of the daf, it says Kuf Tezvav Omid Beis. Like 10 lines on the bottom, 7, 8 lines on the bottom. The Gemara says like this: Abaya Avi Yosef Kamed Rabba. Abaya was once sitting in front of Rabba. Now Abaya, there's Abaya and Rav and Abaya and Rabba. Rabba is the one that raises, older. He saw that they started pushing aside everything they were going to eat. He said, why are they pushing away the food? They're oikers al shulchan when we didn't yet eat the meal. Amalei Rabbis. Rabbis said, "Patarz b'loy Mah Nishtanah." We don't have to say any Mah Nishtanah because you just asked the question. Pshat is Abai was sitting by Rabbis Seder, and before they ate the meal, they pushed aside the meal, and they started saying the Mah Nishtanah. And Rabbis says, "Okay, you said Mah Nishtanah because you asked the question," which means it was during this time, that they started saying the Hagadah before the meal. That's why Abai didn't know. Abai didn't understand why they're pushing away the food, because the normal way was done up until then. Zman Shas, when there was a Korban Pesach, was they used to bring the Korban Pesach. They used to do the Korban Pesach, and after they ate all the mitzvahs of Torah, that's when they did the Hagadah. So that will make pshat in the pshat level. Why, according to pshat, why it works out that they were able to ask all these 4 questions, because the questions were asked after the meal. Okay, that's pshat. If you look at the Rambam in the next Maramokim, you'll see that the Rambam bavorns this question a little bit, because look at the Rambam writes in Halacha Beis that Masmo Varach Ber Pi Adama. So this is karpas. You take the Adama and you betavel the charesis. See the halacha on the top? The karpas goes where? Not in salt water the way we do it, but the Rambam holds you do in the charesis. Like I said before, because it has to be exactly the way you do later the more in charesis. V'oichel kazayis. You have to eat a kazayis. You have to eat a full kazayis, a full measurement. Everyone has to eat, everyone has to have a full share of the karpas in charesis, just like more later in charesis. Then you push away the table. There was like little tables. They sat little tables. And you moizik the kois sheni. You poured the second cup. Vikana ben shoyel, and the shoyel asked the question. What's the question that the shoyel is asking? The same question that Abaya asked Rabbah. Lo moikim sa shulchan. Why are you putting away the shulchan? We didn't eat yet. That's the question. Or something else. Or karpas. Why did you just dip something in salt water? The question is not the Mah Nishtanah. The question is, why? What's going on? What's different tonight? V'oimer hakoira Mah Nishtanah alayla zeh mikol alei shechol eisayna matamim lafil b'amachas. And who says the Mah Nishtanah? Not the koira. Means the father. The person that's leading the Seder, he's the one that says Mah Nishtanah. The shayla Mah Nishtanah is not a question that the child asks. Forget, it's not the child that's asking. It's actually the adult on the table that knows what's going to happen in the Seder. It says, Mah Nishtanah of the Hafachim, and then he says, tonight we're going to do things differently, even though we didn't do them. Tonight we're going to only be matbilim. We're going to be matbilim shtepam. We're going to do it twice. Normally we don't even do it once. Tonight we're going to only eat matzah. We're only going to eat mar, and we're going to sit the whole day baseba. Okay, the father knows this and states this. He says this is what's going to be. So Va'amar Koira answers the question of how we know these issues. Okay, so this is according to Pshat. But there's a much deeper understanding. Rabbeinu Manoach, Hagadah, so Rabbeinu Manoach is arguing. No
one touches upon the fast the language of the
That's pshat. That's the pshat. That's pshat. What do you know? That's the pshat. What do you know? We just said it. That's the pshat. The V'amar Koira is the Koira. It answers the question of the dollar questions, right? It doesn't answer the question, but it still didn't answer the question why dafka these 4. Also, we didn't ask that question, but that's also a question. Why dafka D4? Do you do other things? You do a dollar koises. Why isn't that a question of dollar koises? So I'll pick up more and more bepnimius. The Ramak writes in the next Maramokim. The Ramak writes, "V'imtei Mah Nishtanah golus hazeh amechuna b'shem laila. Ksiv also b'ekev gam laila mikol golus she'avru." That the question of Mah Nishtanah is, why is this golus different than all other golus? Why is this golus different? Why is this laila, this darkness, different than all other darkness? Umeishiv v'oimer, and then the answer to the question is, Mah Nishtanah is the question. The answer is Shebachol Aleilas, and then we say the difference. Shebachol Aleilas, we have Chametz and Matzah, which is Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara. And after Balayla Zeh, Kishenetze Menu Kula Matzah, is Batli Yetzer Hara. Which means that it's a teretz. The answer to the question, Mah Nishtanah Aleilah Zeh. Mah Nishtanah Zeh, what's this Gullus and the Gula going to be different than all the Gullus and the Gula? So the teretz is that this Gullus will be a Gula Shlema. And he goes through the whole, if you can read it, he goes through the whole arichas of the dollar questions of what this idea is. This concept is also brought in the Marami Panu, but a little bit different. That the question of Mah Nishtanah Aleilah Zeh is the question of why the big structure of the Hagadah on Leila Seder is that there's godless before katnas. That's the chiddush of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The chiddush of Yetzias Mitzrayim is was and is that normally growth is movement from katnas to godless, which is from an immature state to a mature state. Which is also something you find in the Hagadah itself, which is the hafachim. What's the hafachim? The hafachim means that the Leila Seder has this idea, which is that one corresponds to the next. So everything is done in pairs. It's zugis. Right? The Gemara talks about zugis, dafke with the koises, with the dal koises. The Gemara asks, why is there no zugis? But the idea of zugis is mentioned with dal koises. Why is zugis? Zugis means opposites. Opposites means that there's a question, there's a question, the child asks a question, and the you have to respond. There's a question and there's an answer. The Reb Chaim says this is the mitzvah of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim on Leil Pesach, different than all you Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim throughout the year, is that it has to be b'derech shayla v'tshuva. So if your child is not going to ask, then your wife should ask, or someone should be shaylas atzma. You should ask yourself a question because it has to be b'derech shayla v'tshuva, question and answer. The whole night is structured in afachim. There's a question and there's an answer. There's foods that you eat that represent freedom, and there's food that you eat represent slavery. There is a child, which is a cotton, and there's a gadol, which is someone that has the. There's a question, there's an answer, cotton and gadol. Everything is the afachim. There's two afachim. The shaila is that on Pesach night, normally, in order to become mature, in order to get to a state of godless, you have to go through a process of katnas. In order to become mature, simply, like this is the derech oilam. That the derech oilam is reisha chashecha v'had nehura, which is derech oilam is there's laila v'yoyim, v'yer v'yiboike yamecha. There's night, there's day, which means first you go through a struggle, which is like a question, and the shaila is there's a gullus. The Bnei Yisrael write the shaila is gullus, which means I don't understand. There's no clarity. I'm trying to understand. It's Laila, and then v'hadad nura. Then the light comes. You have a question. You break your head, and then there's light. You go through a hardship, and then you break through, and then you have some type of expansiveness. There's katnas, and then there's godless. This is the way it works. And if you erech the katnas, that's like big the godless is. If something is a bigger cotton, then it can have a bigger godless. The more katnas something can have, the more small it can have, the more great it could become. That's why, for example, a shoy ben yom nikar shoyer. There's no katnas and godless by a behemoth for lifi erech, which means that the biggest disparity between a child or an infant and an adult is in the human race. Which means if you look at a camel that gives birth to a camel, so the Gemara says shoy ben yom nikar shoyer. Which means that the erech between a small camel and a big camel is just the size. One camel is 4 feet, and another camel is 10 feet. But a camel, if you ever saw a camel being born, right after 5 minutes later, it's walking around. It's a camel. So it's a gesunte camel like anything else. Which means since the godless is minimum, therefore the katnas is minimum. But where's the greatest disparity? Where's the greatest be'ein aroich between birth and maturity is with the human being. Because if you look at the human being can't walk, can't talk. Is basically Khalil. If you don't help the child is not gonna survive. It needs its parents. Because the lefi erech the katnas, that's lefi erech the godless. The same thing also fakert. It also works with tuma. That anything that the more godless the thing has, the more tumah is possible. That's why you say Atam Kurim Adam, that Afka Adam Kiyamas Boil, that Tumas oil is Afka by Kal Yisrael, by Adam. And then there's this Tumah of Aviyo Isatum, which is a Adam. Then there's a Tumah of a mess, of a Nevela, which has also forms of Tumah. And then there's a less form of Tumah, which means there could be vegetation that becomes Tumah. But a rock cannot become Tomei. Which means, so, Lefi Erech, the godless, that's the Katnas. Okay? And the way it works is, first you start off with godless, Vayi Erev Vayi Boiker, you start from the Katnas, you go to godless. What's the godless of Pesach night? The godless of Pesach night was that we started off from godless. That there was Halal Avodah Zarah, V'Halal Avodah Zarah. That Kal Yisrael were Memta Shari Tumah, which God doesn't say Kisvei Hari, but it says in the Rechaim, and all of it so they can bring it down. That Kal Yisrael was in the state of Memta Shari Tumah. And Pesach Aleim, Pesach comes from Medalag al-Har, Mekapes al-Gvoy, something that was skipped over, passed over. So Klal Yisrael were thrusted from a place of complete katnus to a higher level of godless, which means that it was not something that was worked on. It wasn't that they worked on katnus and they developed and they get to a place of godless. It was Pesach. This is the oimik why it says on Pesach it's Memachas HaShabbos. So Memachas HaShabbos, everyone asked the question. The Gemara asked the question that if Meshabbos means Pesach, it's not Shabbos Bereishis. That's what the Tzdukim say. So why doesn't the Torah say Pesach? It would make it just easier, saying Pesach, and you wouldn't have the whole drash that what the Tisper Chamishim Yoyim Shabbos Shabbos. So you know that Shabbos doesn't need Shabbos Bereishis. Say regular, say Pesach, and then you know that after the first day of Pesach you should count Svir. Why does the Torah say Shabbos? And the Torah says because Pesach is Taka Shabbos. The Nekuda of Pesach is Taka Shabbos. I saw the Imir Noam writes that Pesach and Shabbos, the Gematria Pesach Shabbos is the same Gematria Mah Nishtanah. Because Pesach is Shabbos. The Nekuda of Pesach is Shabbos. That what is Pesach? Pesach is that it's Lamaila, it's Mekatcher V'Kayim, something that comes on its own, which means that it's godless on its own. How is it Mizbata in the question Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh? Remember, the real Iker question, the question is not Shebchol Leilas Ono Echlim Shebchol Leilas. That's not the question. The question is Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh B'chol Leilas. That's the Shaila. What's the question about Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh? The question is, how come this Laila, this night, which represents Katnus, is Zeh, is godless? Because really it should be Halayla Hazois. Laila is Lashon Nekeva. If Laila is Lashon Nekeva, we'll see soon. Laila is Lashon Nekeva. If Laila is Lashon Nekeva, it's a big deal. If it is, it isn't. But the Gra writes it, the Shalah writes it, that Laila is Lashon Nekeva. If Laila is Lashon Nekeva, it should say Halayla Hazois. But you don't say Halayla Hazois. You say Halayla Hazeh, which means that the Laila Nekeva, which is Nukva, which is us, our state of Katnus, reached the Bechina of Zachar, reached the Bechina of Shir. The difference between Shir and Shir, right? That you say but on Pesach night, the Shir Chodesh, not Shira Chadasha. Shir Chodesh, the Tosfos writes, so what's Shir Chodesh? Shir means that it's a Lashon Davar Shal Kiyum, something that's everlasting, that's permanent, so that's godless. So how could the Laila be Zeh? How could we enter? Why is this night? What's the gift of this night that we get godless before Katnus? How is it Mizbata also simply in the night? It shows up is that the first thing that you do is you do Kiddush. If it's a Laila Shalafachim, the night of opposites, it would make sense theoretically that you would start the Leila Seder with the child asking a question. The child is Katnus. The child asks a question. And then you would say, okay, now we're going for godless, we're going to make Kiddush, which is godless. But you don't start that. You say, which means you're starting from a place of godless. So why is this the Laila Zeg? Do we start from a place of godless? Or how is it? What's the or? What does it mean that we're starting from a place of godless and not a place from godless? That's the Shiloh. That's the Shiloh. So that's the Shiloh. So the simple answer of the idea of the four, because you said there are four questions, four statements, and the four statements starts according to the Rambam and the Rif is we start with matbilim, chametz matzah, mor, and aseva. What's the reason why we do these four? Is because these four are either, and we don't have to ask Dalek cases, because these four are connected all to mitzvahs of Minator, or mitzvahs of the night, or mitzvahs Minator dafka, and they are, so Dalek cases is not, it's completely midrabanan, and it's ala seder. So Pashtas it's going to be ala seder, because first you matbilim, pamachas, okay, then you eat matzah, then you eat mar, and to the soif of the seder, you're going to realize that kolana mesubim, you come to mesubim. So that's going to be the simple pshat why it goes this order. But there's a different mahalach, or a more pnimistic mahalach, is that it works. The way it works is that they represent, since it's not the question of Mah Nishtanah is why is it that we have gadlus before katnos, and the statement is these four things. These four statements correspond to four olamas. And it's from down upwards, from Asiyah to Yitzirah to Bria to Atzilus. That's the four things. So what's the idea? Let's go over here in a sec. We'll go back a little further on. From the base irons, the second last Maramokim. Pesach Reish Dalib Shnasa say the Omar. This is like this. The Baron Kalina once said, Kana ben Shoyl. When it says that Kana ben Shoyl, here the child asks a Shaila. That Pir Shoyl Losha She'elo Bakasha. Ritzolim Kan Yochel Abar Yisrael Lishoyl to borrow. Ulavakish ma'oviv shebeshamayim shekol ma shetzarich lekabel chayis hakol dvarim b'layla zeh. Ulahasig ma sheloi omel v'yoga azos. That on the night of Pesach, that shoyel also comes from the she'ilah, that you borrow. It's a request and a borrowing. So requesting, but a borrowing is even much deeper, because requesting means I'm requesting these asagas. Saying that it's also a lotion from borrowing. There's another market, but I couldn't find. There's another better market for this, but this is also. But it's a chassidish word that the she'ilah comes from the word borrowing. The kana ben shoyl is now the child can borrow these madregas. Kana ben shoyl ma, he can draw down the madrega of ma. If you look at on the next page, this is the Lubavitch Hagadah, and it says ben shoyl Mah Nishtanah. So you see in the left column it says B'sefer Yashenim Hoya Gamki and Girsa Haben Shoyl Ma. So there's a lashon from the Rebbe Rayatz that over here the ben is Shoyl Ma, not the ben is Shoyl Mah Nishtanah. The child requests or borrows the bechin of Ma. Or B'lashon or the Tikkun HaZoyer Chadash. In Tikkun B'Soif it says B'leil Shmurim Kad Yasa Leil Purkin Delay. In Ireland, the Maha, the Yushma, on the night of Pesach, which is the revealing of the name Ma, which is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shem Ma is one of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the Yud Kei Vavke in the Milui. Mefarish B'uzim the Ben Shoyl of Ma, that the child can ask from Avim Mishma Shamayim the Madrega of Ma, that the child can draw down the question of the Madrega of Ma, the level of Ma. We'll see it in a second. Let's see in a second. And then the other word, Ben Shoyl, before he writes Zeshet Tinik Dafke Shoyl. Why Dafke the Tinik is Shoyl? Because the truth is everybody has to be Shoyl Ma. Shoyl Ma Pshat is that on Pesach night we can receive the Madrega of Ma. Everyone can receive the Madrega of Ma. But so why does it say Dafke that the child has to ask the question? It says because that idea that the child asks the question or the Ben is Shoyl Ma, then it's ma'or l'mayla in the na'isol ve'aveu. It's ma'or that this nekuda of na'isol ve'aveu, which is the avar kodesh baruch Klal Yisrael, which is a kosav adaber zman yitzis mitzrayim, which is a kosav that speaks of yitzis mitzrayim. So why is the ben shoyl ma? Really, everyone's shoyl ma. But in order for us to awaken the madrega of Ma, so the ben is shoyl, which is na yisol v'aveo. It's awakening the child, kaviyach, our relation with the Eibishter. It's awakening that we're the child asking for the bechina of Ma. Kina yisol v'aveo, and then the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to give us this madrega of Ma. What is this madrega of Ma? What is this madrega of Ma? So b'pashtus, said before that the whole idea of a lot of the ideas of Pesach on the Seder is going to be this bechina of Ma. Now, what's the bechina of Ma? The Ma is chokhmah, it's koyach Ma. The Ma is bittul. And what's the bechina of Ma? That there's moichin the Abba. So there's moichin the Ima, there's moichin the Abba, which in the Lashon Ari is there's godless Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. That godless Rishon is moichin the Bina, godless Sheni is moichin the Chokhmah, and godless Shlishi, which is Kesser, which is Shavuos, but that's not on Pesach night. On Pesach we receive godless Sheni and godless Rishon, godless Sheni. Start from Sheni to Rishon to Sheni. So you have moichin the Bina and moichin the Abba. Moichin the Abba is koyach Ma. Moshe is bechinas Ma. Right? Moshe is the bechinas Ma. God, I saw last week on Shabbos, I saw the Chassam Sofer writes, and it's a Tikkun Zohar, but it doesn't quote from Tikkun Zohar. Tikkun Zohar writes that Moshe's name be'emes is Ma, and the Shin was just to give substance to the name. The Chassam Sofer writes, and he writes why the Shin, what the Shin is meramis to something, and if you want to look at it, it's in the Chassam Sofer Al Teres Moshe on Zion Other Beis. As all time, he brings about this Moshe, which means that Moshe is the bechinas Ma. What does this mean practically? What does this mean? Moichin the Chochma, which is the shoyl Ma, that on Pesach night we're shoyl Ma, is again most times you need katnus to get the galus, which means I have to work something out and I break it through and I finally have a shayla, I have a teretz, and I get to a place of lichtik and it becomes clear and I have some clarity. Pesach, a person is gifted just like Yetzias Mitzrayim. We were gifted. We were in a place of Memtaj, that's Shari Tuma, and we were pushed into a state of spiritual clarity. Koyach Ma. The same thing goes on Pesach night. What is the clarity of Chachma? The clarity of Chachma is madregas of klarkeit. I don't know if there's a better word for this, but this is the word, which means that you have. There's a certain type of clarity that you have that's called moichin the bina, which is a clarity of like an understanding, which is I understand that my life makes sense. I understand why I'm here. I understand what my purpose is. I understand why I'm married to this people and this is my children and this is my spouse. What is my life? I understand it. This is one type of clarity, and the higher level of clarity is an intuitive, more. A higher clarity is not bina. It's not mislabish and seichel. It's not a seichel-dik clarity. It's not an intelligence type of clarity, but it's almost like an intuitive type of knowing. A higher clarity of intuition. This is why Ma is connected to almost to nevuah. It's a type of clarity that a person receives on Pesach night, which is a clarity that's even higher or deeper or more subtle, more dakus, more refined than the moichin of bina. It's very hard to explain what this is because it's an experience. But imagine, let's say, you don't have to imagine, but let's say, for example, sometimes you're middle of davening or you're walking in the street, you're doing something, and all of a sudden, most times in your life, there's a lack of clarity. I'm not sure exactly if I should be am I doing the right thing now? Am I using my talents correctly? Your life is not necessarily figured out always. And then sometimes, like you're maybe in the middle of davening, or maybe even just walking down the street, and everything. Yeah, it actually not gonna make sense. Now it doesn't make it. It's not logical making sense, but yeah, I understand. Abish has a plan, and this is the plan. I should be living here, and this should be my family, and these should be my children. These should be my struggles, and yeah, it makes. Do you ever have this experience? If you had this experience, and hopefully you should have this on Pesach night, that's called clarity of godless sheni. It's a klar. Everything becomes lichtig. It's not muchshis. There's moichin the bina, which is muchshis. So the Ari says that the moichin or the godless rishon of bina is connected to the dalakoisis. But matzah, which is bechinas ma, which is the bechinas ma, is moichen the chachma. Is chachma is koyach ma. That the matzah is bola matzah is yotza. It's not about taste. It's not a muchshistik thing. It's not something even explainable. It's unexplainable, but it's clear. It's very clear. It's more clear than you're looking at a wall right now. It's a huh?
Is it fair to say it's the difference between you understand or understood?
That's a good. That's actually that. Yes. You mean you're being understood? You are understood. Yes.
You understood.
Yeah.
You understand.
Yeah.
You understand.
Right. Is bina.
That's bina.
Yeah.
And understood is
chachma. Yeah, that's a good Hagadah. Yes. There's no you. There's less you. There's less mukhshis of you in here. It's not like I am seeing my life making sense. The clarity is not me seeing it. Oh, yeah.
It's more objective.
You know you're submerged. This bittul. You're submerged in the awareness of the clarity. You become the clarity. It's not like I am thinking about the clarity. This is a dakistika type of moichen that of godless that the Ari says is what Klal Yisrael experienced when Yitzias Mitzrayim. This bechinas ma. That's why I constantly say chacham ma'omer, roshel ma'omer, and tam ma'omer. Well, everything's about ma because it's bechinas ma. And on the night of the Seder, we're gifted the bechin of ma. There's the shoyel ma, kana ben shoyel ma. Pshat is that the ben, really everyone be shoyel ma. Everyone can borrow this madrega of ma. But like he brought down from the Rabayats, that because the idea of the ben is kanai yisol aveu, wants to arouse that kaviyachol. You know, we're Hashem. You're our Father. We are your children. So that arouses kanai yisol aveu, and that draws down that the Hakadosh Baruch Hu gives. The Hakadosh Baruch Hu is giving to you anyways, but it's more sweeter giving. And this is the bechinas of ma. The bechin of ma is this type of klarkeit. And in this klarkeit of bechinas ma, there's 4 madregas of in avoida. The way it's expressed is the Mah Nishtanah is that it's expressed. The ma is bechinas is revealed, and now it's going to reveal in these 4 things. So the 4 things of matbilim chametz and matzah. And Mar and Aseba is Asiya, Yitzira, Bria, and Atzilus. Okay, that's the Madrega. And what does that mean? So B'Shabachal Leila is which means all the nights of the year, Asiya is Olam Agashmi. This is the physical world. The experience of Asiya is bittul in Kedusha. Pshat is that I'm avatar myself. I'm humble. Let's say that it's humility. And I'm surrendering. I'm humbling myself in front of Hashem. So Shebachol is Pshat is throughout the entire year. We can't be showed this madrega so easily because even if we are matbilim pamachas, that's the difference between Zman Beis Hamikdash Kayim and Zman Shein Beis Hamikdash Kayim. If they were matbilim even one time, most times people are matbilim pamachas. People have a sense of humility in their life. It usually comes from a hardship. When a person is experiencing hardship, they're usually humbled. When a person is feeling ecstatic or happy, usually bittul and doesn't usually come with that. It's usually when you're going through a hard time. Okay, yeah, I'm about myself. Okay, so shebachol is on matbilim afilu pamachas or matbilim pamachas. That's through hardship. That's kapras and salzwasser. That's taking bitter onions and putting in salt water. It's okay. Talk matbilim. Halayla zashtei problem. Tonight we can also experience even more in charaises. We can take more of the bitter and we can bitter into something that's sweet like charaises. And in the sweetness we can even see margish. You can have a hergish, we can have a sensation of bittul. That's malkatza lakatza. So go. See, that's the first madrega. The second madrega is shebechol is on oichlim chametz matzah alay zekul matzah. That's oil mayitzir. Why is oil mayitzir? Oil mayitzir is the world of emotions. Like you brought down from you see from the Ramax is in the same word. Shebechol is on matzah means that throughout the year it's chametz matzah. What's chametz? Chametz is Yetzirah. What's matzah? Matzah is bittul, which means in my emotions. Are my emotions selfish or selfless? Basically, that's the shayla. Shebachol leilas, this chametz u'matzah. Sometimes I have a very holy feeling, and sometimes my feelings are edel and selfless and kedusha, and sometimes it's all about myself. I like to give the guy tzedakah because I feel better about myself, or I like to be kind to another person because it makes me feel good. Okay, that's chametz. There's a little matzah. Halayla zeh kula matzah. Today you have this type of clarity, this type of openness that you can actually experience one night a year. That you can be shoyel ma, you can be shoyel this madrega of Yitzira, that you should have kule matzah. God, the whole idea of chametz is also b'mashu. which is the Rambam holds because Davish Yesh Matirim. I don't know if you know the whole din. Why is Chametz Asur B'Mashu? Chametz Asur B'Mashu. So the Rabaz writes in the Tshuva that the only teretz why Chametz be Asur B'Mashu is because it's a remes to the Avodah Zarah. It's a remes to Yetzer Hara. The Rabaz writes this is Al Pi Nigla. He says because Al Pi Nigla this doesn't make any sense. Why Dafka Chametz Asur B'Mashu? Or else you say Davish Yesh Matirim, which is the Rambam Shita. But if you don't say Davish Yesh Matirim, why is Chametz Asur B'Mashu? Why Mashu? Tami, why is it also B'Mashu? Now the other, the oimik of the pshat and the Radbaz, I think we spoke about this once, is that the Egyptians were actually the first people to ferment. That the first civilization that actually fermented bread, which means that made chametz, soyer, which made chametz and drank beer, were the Egyptians. In Egypt, they didn't drink water. I don't know if you know this. In the ancient world, you couldn't drink water. Everyone was drunk. Everyone was drinking beer the whole time. They were drinking beer and eating bread. And if you go according to as they come to but what did they give Klal Yisrael? They gave Klal Yisrael matzah according to the Even Ezra and the Barbanel. Even if we don't do that, if we don't say that svara, when Abishah took it out of Mitzrayim, what did Abishah say? Kol Sa'ir L'Seichel. What? Why? Because don't be like the Egyptians. If you want to break free from the Egyptian culture, don't eat chametz. Chametz represents the pinnacle. It's like, I don't know, in America, what would be the pinnacle of American culture? You say, you want to leave the clip of America, don't do that. If you want to leave the clip of Mitzrayim, they just said, don't eat. So the chametz represents the echt avodah zarah of Mitzrayim. So just like avodah zarah is also mashu, same thing also chametz is also mashu. The pinimis avodah means, the chametz amatzah means a little bit, a little less. So halayla is that kule matzah. The same thing also mar. Shechol is on echlim shayiraka is halayla is this is oil mabriya. What's oil mabriya? Is oil maseichel. Not oil mamid. It's not. There's action, which is oil masiyah. There's midas, motions, which is oil mayitzir, and then there's seichel, which is oil machshava, the person's thoughts. Shechol is on echlim shayiraka. Pshat is all other nights. Shayiraka means we're bouncing around from one thing to the next. The clarity that we have, or the focus that we have, is not, you know, you have, I don't know what to say, you have focus ADHD, you have focus for 10 seconds you focus on this thing, and mamish you're like, cool there, and 5 seconds later you're focused on completely something else. There's a lack of clarity of thought, that you can't hold the thoughts, right? That's what Bechalal is. Alayla Zakulamara means there's a sharpness of Seichel, that means that we have the ability to be fully present with our Machshava, to be present with Oil Masiyah and Oil Machshava. Then there's Atzilus.
Why is more clarity?
Because it sharpens the mind. Sharp. Which means when it's the more is Be'emes B'Des HaTiferes, but it goes back to Kessler. But it's the idea of when you eat something very sharp, it forces you to, when you're eating more, you can't start thinking about other things.
It's like with the Sefer Chinuch writes about the trumpets, the blast.
The same idea. Same idea. Rav Nachman talks about it. Same idea. A clapping that breaks machshava zaras. It's the same thing. Any loud sound, anything that rattles the person, forces the machshava, rikus the machshava. Like the Baal Shem writes, the guy in this week's parsha, and Parshas Shmini in the Baal Shem Al-Teri brings down that if a person has bilbul machshava and it has chumir saguf, is yifna l'sham or l'sham. You should like move your eyes back and forth, and through that you'll have rikus machshava. Because anything that you do that's going to force a certain thing on a visceral, physical level forces your machshava to focus. This is the idea of the Mar. And the fourth madreya, which is al matzilus. Shebachal leils on oich lemen yoshev mesuvim. Something. What's the name of yoshev mesuvim? Mesuvim shat is mesuvim means you're resting. Mesuvim it's nitza. You're already there. You're present. Shebachal leils is yoshev mesuvim. There's a little bit here, a little there, and you get up and you get down. But alayla zek kolon mesuvim. Tonight you can reach a madrega of atzilus. You can reach a level that after the 15 madregas, which we spoke about many times, after the 15 madregas of the Seder, what's the highest madrega of the Seder? The highest madrega of the Seder is nirtza. So kaddish is asiyah. You're doing something. Urchatz, you're washing hands. Karpas. What's the avoid of nirtza? Nirtza is the 15th madrega, which is the 15th highest madrega. What's the avoid of nirtza? The avoid of nirtza, what's the work to do in nirtza? Nothing. That's the avoid. The avoid is asiyah. Because when you arrive, you don't have to do anything. But until you're arriving, I'm arriving until you arrive. But when you come to Nirtza taka. how do you get to the place of nirtza? After Daled Koises and you ate the full shiurim, you're going to be nirtza. It's a guarantee you'll be nirtza. After the Seder, you're going to do Hagadah. So it's freilach. If you get to the place of nirtza, that's it. It's ESC. You get to that nekudah. This is the madrega of Shekana ben Shoyl Ma, that we're shoyl these madregas of Ma, and we have the clarity to go from higher madrega to higher, until we get even to something that's higher than the afachim. What's higher than afachim? So in the oimik of the entire Seder is there's afachim. That's Mah Nishtanah alayla zeh, like the Barmanel wrote. That's afachim. It's opposites. But be'emes, when we say halayla zeh, it's a noisa afachim, because you're saying that Laila is zeh. That Laila, that the nukva, the nekeva, the lashon nekeva is lashon zachar, which is a yichud of a Laila zeh, a yichud of zachar and nekeva. Let's see a few more marmakoyms.
Also, Hazeh is Gimatria Tered, which is a Orki Tered.
Oh, okay, well, about it.
So Laila is...
Okay, let's see how this works, because be'emes, there's 4, but there's also madrega chamishis. There's always a 5th madrega, and the 5th level is the hidden, exactly. The 5th one's the hidden one. Just like there's a hidden kais, there's also a hidden child, and there's a hidden question, which is higher than the question. The question, exactly. So let's see from the Shalom brings us down before, but I was too in a rush to get to the original Marmakim, but this is the second Marmakim. But it's the same Nekuda. When he brings Kol Eis Alayla, the Shalom Kodesh writes, it's after Tefillah L'Moish, after the Ramak, that he writes in the Hagadah. Huh? One chapter says, he writes the Hagadah. So he writes, Ki Laila Losh Nekeva. Val Derech HaPshat Nuchel Loimar. This is the Derech HaPshat of the Shalom Kodesh. This is Pshat. So in case you're not learning Kabbalah now, you're learning Pshat according to the Shalom. What's Derech HaPshat? The Ba'oisa Laila Hava Me'ira Kayoim. So why does it say halayla zeh? Why does it say lashon kev and lashon zacher? Because that night there was Laila Kayim Yoyer. Amar Yoyer lashon zacher v'loy tor. Ki Laila tia kemoishu zacher. Kein hoya Laila zayim hoya mir kayim. Okay, there's Amar lashon zacher oisa halayla. The reason why it says oisa, not oisa halayla, that the homisub b'nebak oisa halayla, not oisa. It doesn't say oisa, but it says oisa lashon zacher. So the Shalom Kodesh writes, because on that night, on the Leila Seder, we reach the madrega where it's Laila Kayim Yoyer, where the zacher becomes the nekeva, where's the yichud the zacher and the nekeva. The zacher is going to be yoim. The nekeva is going to be Laila. The zacher, the lashon hazoyer, is the zacher is connected to the shemesh, to the chama, and the isha is connected to the levana, to Laila. And Laila Kayim Yoyer, the sun and the moon, is male and female, and the Laila Kayim Yoyer is it's going to be this unity between the male and female. The next Marmok L'Rechaim HaKadosh writes a gewaldige word that he says that it says V'oim B'yoimahu, says the L'Rechaim that B'avuz Shu B'shas V'layla Ki Laila Hu Yoim Tikra, that V'oim B'yoimahu, we're talking about the night, but we call it Yoim, we call it day. So he says, because Loi Lailahu, V'layla Ki Yoim Yoyer. And then he looks at the next page, he writes that Ki B'yoimahu in V'agadata, and the reason why Kisamach V'yoimahu V'agadata, Ki Gam Nezeh B'chlal Mitzvah Hagadah. That part of the Mitzvah Hagadah, says the L'Rechaim, is to mention this idea. That we have to have a schir, we have to do something or remember that it doesn't say Nagada anywhere, right? It doesn't say anywhere Nagada Laila Kayim Yoyer. But the Shalosh said, the L'Rechaim writes that on the Leila Seder we have to remember that it was a night, that the day was like night. The night was like day. There was a yichud between night and day, and that's part of the mitzvah Hagadah L'Bincha, is the mitzvah to speak about the idea that it was B'yomahu, that it was that the ness that night was like day. There's a nice Maramakim. It's kind of for Purim, but it works also for Pesach. It's a nice, in the Tur Berekas, it's a sefer we didn't mention often, but it's a very Gishmaka sefer. It's written by Reb Chaim HaKohen, and he's incidentally buried in Italy. So Reb Chaim HaKohen was a Talmud Muvik of Reb Chaim Vital. Talmud Muvik of Reb Chaim Vital, it even says on his kever, it's Talmud Muvik of Reb Chaim Vital, and then eventually moved to Italy. He was not a Talmud of Reb Chaim Vital in Damascus, and he wrote on Shulchan Aruch, which is a Pirush of Shulchan Aruch episode. It's be'erech what Ram Nosson did with the same idea, but it's a different style. It's more al pi Kabbalah. but it's very geschmack. It's a very geschmack sefer. Hasn't been done. No one has done this correctly ever. We once had a huge plan to do it, but that's Shlomo backed up. But it was a huge plan. But it's kedai one day to do such a thing. Is to actually write the Shulchan Aruch episode. Anyways, he has over here. He talks about that on Hallel, that on Leil HaSeder, Leil Pesach, you say Hallel. Hallel Gomer. You finish Hallel. You say the whole Hallel. Now, he says the same thing also in Megillah, that in Megillah, you also have to read it by night, because the Gemara says one of the three reasons why we don't say Hallel on Pesach, on Purim, is Kriyas Ezui Lula, that the Hallel, the Kriyas of Megillah. So he says like this, generally when you say Hallel, you have to stay standing up. And Kriyas Megillah you don't, you can sit. That's what he brings it down. You don't have to say the Megillah standing. That time was that. Because it says in Zohar, anything that's Alma the Duchra, huh?
You once brought down the Chaim V'Chesed.
Chaim V'Chesed also says, yeah, that's correct. Oh, very good, Shlomo, very good. That anything from Alma the Duchra, everything that's from the world of male, like the tzur of a man, of a male, has to be said standing. He came derech hazar liyis mu'umad. Amar kol advarim shem ba'alma de nukva, him nar miyushav. Anything that's alma de nukva, from Eilan nukva, you have to do it sitting. So if you say it's sitting or standing, represents whether it's a male or female. And that's, he says, the difference between Hallel and Kriyas Megillah. So he says Hallel is generally mu'umad, but Kriyas Megillah is miyushav because it's Eilan nukva, which is connected to Esther. Okay, what's in the Gei Linyanenu? Because Linyanenu, what we do on Pesach night is we're goymer Hallel, according to many. Okay, this is a big machlokes, but a lot of people are goymer Hallel in Ma'ariv, which is mu'umad with a bracha. You say Hallel, which you say Hallel mitzvah, but you say mu'umad. Then later in the seder itself, in the Hagadah itself, you sit, and Beisham Hill is machlokes how you divide it, but you actually divide Hallel between the past and the future. That first you say the past before drinking the second cup, and then you say the Hallel for the second part, which is for the future. But here you do a miyushav. So what you're doing is that you're reading Hallel, which is generally a tzura of zachar, but you're not reading Hallel b'derech kriya, because that's the mitzvah's kriya Hallel. That's why you don't make a bracha. But it's the Ran writes, and there's a Rahaigon, there's a Briskerov, and there's a Ritva and Sukkah also, that it's b'derech shira or b'derech zimra. It's a different type of Hallel. But the Nakuda is that you're doing Hallel in Beis Yashvas. You're doing Hallel, which is a tzura of a Baal, which is Zachar, but you're doing b'derech Nukva, which is b'derech Yeshiva. Why? Because on Leil HaSeder, what we're doing is we're saying that even though, this is why you're going through the Hallel, and then we get to part of Nitzah, which is after the end of Hallel. You're saying that even though the whole night is Afachim, in the world of Afachim, in the world of opposites, you can never get to a place of Shleimus. You can never actually reach real freedom. Because if you're functioning in the world of Afachim, there always is a hepech to that. If let's say I have a Shiloh, the Baal Shem once said that for every teretz, I think he said he can have 300 shilas. Because if you have a question and you have an answer, so maybe it's a gewaldig answer, but if someone is a little smarter, can ask you a better question, and then you need another answer. So by definition, anything that's in a duality is by definition always something that can't actually reach its end. Because by definition, if it's dark, then it's light. Then you have a little higher darkness, it's a higher light. But there's always going to be a hipuch. So if you say that Leil HaSeder is moving from Avdus L'cheres, Maschel Begnus Messiah Meshvach. So you're going from Gnus to Shvach. But if you go to Gnus L'Shvach, on the Madrega of Shvach, you can also find a higher Gnus, and then you can find a higher Shvach, and then you can find a higher Gnus, and a higher Shvach. You can have a Teretz, and you can have a higher Shai, and then a higher Teretz. You can never actually get out of this wheel. Because you're always stuck in an opposite, zel umazeh. In the Olam Bria, the way the world is created, since it's afachim, there's always the hepech of that. So you say, okay, I have a gevaldik Leil Seder, and I reach Taka Madrega, that's the Moichen the Abba, and I have a Madrega of Ma, Okay, but 5 minutes later I'm going to go back. Then I have to go a little higher. So it's I'm not actually reaching any place. So that's why the oimik of the Seder, the Leila Seder, this is Laila Kiyom Yor. The oimik of the Seder is that even though we're talking about opposites, and Mah Nishtanah Laila is the opposites, the teretz of the question, which the Barbanel says the question of Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh, how come it's a nois hafachim? The teretz is because it is a nois hafachim. There's no, the Barbanel's question says, Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh, first you start with Cheres, and then you go back to Avdus. Then into Cheres and to Avdus. So the question is, so why do you do this? Mah Nishtanah Laila Zeh, why do you do hafachim? And what's the teretz? What's the teretz amiti? What's the teretz of the real answer to this question? The real teretz answer is because you're reaching a point on the Leila Seder, which is such a high madrega, where these two hafachim actually collapse into one. When it's Laila Kayom Yor, when the Zachar and the Kevin become a Yachid. This is also a Pi Halacha, by the way. In Halacha, most mitzvahs hayoim, when you talk about mitzvahs hayoim, this is what this Tur Berekas brings down a chiddush from Megillah. When you talk about the mitzvahs hayoim, when is a mitzvah hayoim? When do you have to blow the shofar? The mitzvah to blow shofar Rosh Hashanah. When do you blow shofar? B'yoim. The mitzvah to take a shekel lulav. When do you shake a lulav? B'yoim. When is the only time when there's a mitzvah by Laila and a Yom Tiv? It's Pesach. Laila Pesach is by Laila. So by Laila, which is B'chal Nekeva, so that's what Tur Berekas says, because Megillah is like Pesach. Because Laila Kayom, look, read that shtickle. He's going to Madame Pesach to pour him to Pesach. But the Nekuda is, where do you find in Torah that there's a chiv by Laila to do a mitzvah is on Pesach? Not only that, a woman is mechuyev like a man. Min Torah. No, forget about Purim. I'm talking about on Pesach night. On Pesach night, the chiyuv of Yisipur Yisrael Tzayim, the chiyuv of chilas matzah, and the chiyuv of not eating chametz, the chiyuv is on the man and the woman equally. Even the chiyuv d'Rabbanan afim b'Oisanes is the same chiyuv, which means that you're doing it by night. You're doing a mitzvah by mitzvah. What usually mitzvahs is by yoyim, which is zachar. That's why Isha is P'tura, that's why a woman is exempt from mitzvah Shas Ma'grama. Why? Because if the mitzvah is by Yom, which is a Zachar and a Kudah of a Zachar, which is Ba'amidah, so a woman is exempt from doing Ba'amidah, because she's connected to Laila. And Laila is no mitzvahs. But here on Pesach night, we say, no, Laila Kayom Yor. That means there's going to be night, which is connected to Nukva, to the female, and the woman is Mechuyev like it's Yom, because it's Laila Kayom Yor. Because tonight, the Laila Kayom Yor, so therefore the Chiv, which is generally on women, which is only by night, not on by day, and therefore, but tonight, the day is the night, and the night is the day, so therefore, even though she's connected, even though a woman's connected to the night, she has to see mechuyev. Mitzvah is like a man. And the mitzvah we do is by night. Why? Because tonight is the Laila Kiyar. The Laila becomes Yor. The Laila is Choshech Hatzv Yor. The Choshech itself becomes light. What does that mean in Linyonenu? Linyonenu means that if you're still thinking in places of opposites, and you're moving from one direction to the other direction, there's always going to be alternatives. There's always going to be, okay, so I reach a little, and then there could be a hepech of that. On Pesach, you have to get to Madrega. You have to get to Madrega of Chamishim. You have to get to there's Memta Shari Tuma, and in Memtes, in the Madrega of Memtes, there's always the Shivim. There's Memtes Panim Tar and Memtes Panim Tamei. There's always hafachim. It's zel umazeh. The 7th and 7. So there's, if you can do one way, you can do it the other way. What's the madrega hamishim? What's the madrega the 50? Absolute. There's no alternative. There's no opposite. Yeah. So the same idea. That you reach the madrega of hamishim on Leila Seder is.
There is no opposite, or
it includes the opposite.
Is,
Everything's included. Everything's included in the opposite.
There is opposite, but it's just everything's perfect. Like, kind of like that.
Yeah, okay, we're going to talk about, yes, that's fair, yes, you can understand that way, yes. No, it's the same thing, yes. No, but yeah. But it's no, yeah, like exactly. Ben Hashmash is either Yom or Laila, or not Yom or Laila, or it's Yom and Laila.
It is.
Correct. Which means that I'm not thinking in a place, let's bring it down very, very, very mukhshes. I'm not thinking in a place. When I finish the Seder, the Leila Seder, it's no longer that I have my Katna state and my Gadol state, my Choshech state and my slave state and my free state. And these two things, and they're always in contradiction to each other, and one is overwhelming the other. Sometimes one is better, sometimes the other better. Tonight, they all are included, implodes, but included in a way that I'm here. And I have dveikus, and I'm connected to the Eibishter, and that's it. And then a person can walk and the next day and you're never going to fall. Because you can't fall. You can only fall from a place of opposite where you can get high. It's not high and low. The Nakuda is, when you finish the Seder, you should feel it. This is what I'm telling you. I'm going to explain you what it is. You can't explain you. When you finish the Seder and you're wondering why you feel like a bomb just went off, and you feel like, you should know that's taka. That's where you're supposed to reach. It's not. It could be the Chazal are very smart. They figured out a way to get you to that place. But you finish when you come to the Seder, you come all organized and ausgestellt, and you have a nice white shirt, and everything is sitting there, and the Seder is starting, and everything in the kayer looks exactly in order. And you come, and the end of the Seder it looks like the mamish, and you're sitting like this, and it's like 3:00 in the morning, and you're singing Hagadah songs that you don't know what they're talking about. It sounds like 39 bottles of beer on the wall, and then this is the greich. You reached and you reach freedom and you reached the Vekas. You reached Nirtzah. The Eibusha loves you. All right.